Hello, Skyline. Thank you for another great weekend. It was amazing to see so many of you at both of our local campuses. And we're so glad Pacifica, and we're so thankful for you as well, and for Kansas, of course. Glad you guys were together on Saturday. Hey, well, I think we know what the word was from the governor of California. He has issued an order to close businesses and places of worship again. And the county of San Diego has a right to not adhere to that order, as San Diego has proven week after week to be one of the safest counties in all the United States, really. But we have yet to see our Board of Supervisors position in writing. With the weekend fast approaching, we have decisions to make regarding our services. And I want you to know that we take this very seriously, as we take into consideration all factors of public health. There are various aspects to public health. There is, of course, the one that has been the focus since March, the medical side of public health. However, there is also the emotional, economical, psychological, and spiritual health that must be considered when you talk about public health. There is never to be a one-size-fits-all program. Now, while we understand the pressures our governmental leaders are under to stop the spread, we must not lose sight of the other health issues that have resulted from the various shutdowns and quarantines. Indeed, the intended cure has become much worse than the virus itself. Therefore, our goal is to strike a balance between the reality of a virus like COVID existing and the reality of the need for people to have the freedom to worship in church. We have followed all the guidelines and even gone above and beyond to make sure we are safe when we have had services. Now, when many churches and businesses were ordered closed back in March, we knew very well our right to meet, and indeed our First Amendment right of freedom to express our religion. But we decided to follow our government's recommendations to not gather, even when we had the right to. We didn't know much about the disease at that point. We know a lot about it today. As restrictions were loosened, we began to gather as permitted by our government. Now, while we recognize the separation of church and state, we were being honoring of our governmental officials as stated in Romans 13. And while Romans 13 helps guide our consciousness during an uncertain time, we also have Acts chapter 5, where Peter and the other apostles were reprimanded by the government for disobeying their governmental officials, and stated very clearly to their government officials at the time that we are to obey God rather than human beings. So, this is the importance of understanding context. There are times when we most certainly should obey our governmental leaders. But there are times when, as God leads the spiritual leaders of the church, that we must pause and listen more closely for the voice of God in the midst of uncertain times. And I have no doubt that Peter and the apostles did that and came to the conclusion they came to. So, where's Skyline in all of this? Therefore, after the governor gave his update yesterday, we met as an executive team. And then we met as a staff at Skyline. And then we met as a board at Skyline. And it is with much prayer, lots of hours of meetings, that our leadership team at Skyline Church has decided that we will remain open as a church this weekend. We've gone above and beyond to make sure we have a safe and clean environment, and we will continue to be safe and clean. This is the same for your kiddos. We will remain open for your kiddos. It's important to understand. I want to emphasize this part of it. If you have any concerns about this, please stay home. I also want to emphasize, if you're feeling any symptoms, please stay home. Watch our online services, which are the same services as we have in person. We believe those who are concerned will stay home, and those who feel they need to be here for their own spiritual health and well-being will be here. We trust you and your freedom to decide what is best for you and your family. Now, we also believe we are contributing positively to the public health, especially the spiritual side of it, but also the emotional, psychological, and even the physical health side by being out and by coming and worshiping our Lord. So please RSVP this week. However, next week, we don't see the need to RSVP. Those who are concerned will stay home. Those who want to be here will be here. Next week, we may need to RSVP for your kids for childcare so that we'll know how many staff and how many volunteers we're going to need here on campus. I think you'd agree this is such an interesting time, folks, but we honestly believe that God is moving and working in the midst of all that is going on. So, we love you, and we will see you this Sunday.